Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your stack of information, your research, your notes, your carefully curated articles, and we execute a surgical extraction of the most important nuggets of knowledge. Today, we are undertaking a deep dive into an idea that is, well, it's pervasive in fitness culture. The belief that running, that easy, accessible form of cardiovascular exercise, is the ultimate fitness solution for life.
It really is, isn't it? It's the default advice. You hear it from doctors, friends, the media. But the sources you brought to us today, they challenge that conventional wisdom and they do it profoundly, particularly for adults stepping into their 50s and beyond. The mission of this deep dive is to understand precisely why that traditional advice of just pounding more pavement can be, well, counterproductive.
Counterproductive is a good word for it.
Yeah, leading to chronic joint issues, accelerated muscle loss, and burnout, all without actually building the fundamental strength and stability required for, real independence.
The sources didn't mince words at all. They suggest that for many, chasing high-impact cardio like running at this stage of life can truly backfire. So instead of feeling stronger and more protected, people often find themselves cycling through injury, suffering from inflamed joints and losing muscle mass.
Which is the exact opposite of what you need for healthy aging.
Exactly.
Look, we need to stop equating sheer effort with effective progress. Running builds cardiovascular endurance, which is, of course, necessary, but it often does so at the expense of muscular resilience and joint longevity. Our focus today is pivoting from generalized cardio exhaustion to smart, targeted functional strength. We will extract and detail 5 specific, evidence-backed full-body movements designed to rebuild usable muscle, restore dynamic energy, and crucially protect the hips, knees, and spine.
So this is a massive shift in mindset. We're replacing high-impact repetition with low-impact power. It's about being effective, not just busy. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start by understanding the why. Why must our approach to fitness change so radically after the age of 50? What are the specific physiological shifts that necessitate moving away from high-impact activities like running?
Well, the primary force driving this need for change is accelerated muscle loss. The medical term is sarcopenia. As you mentioned, running might keep the heart strong, but if it doesn't challenge the muscles in a way that forces them to adapt and grow, you lose critical lean mass. The sources are just crystal clear on this. After 50, muscle loss accelerates to a rate of about 1 to 2% per year.
1 to 2% a year. That sounds significant.
It's huge. And this loss isn't abstract. It translates into a reduced metabolic rate, which makes weight management harder. And critically, it reduces your physical armor.
Physical armor, I like that. So how does that rapid loss actually manifest in daily life?
Sarcopenia means losing power, not just size. It means reduced strength to open a jar, decreased speed to cross a street, and less shock absorption in your major joints. When a muscle weakens, the stress, it transfers directly to the passive structures, the ligaments, tendons, the cartilage.
Oh, okay.
And that's why so many lifelong runners start experiencing accelerated cartilage wear or chronic plantar fasciitis or that persistent Achilles tendonitis as they age. Their muscular system just isn't strong enough anymore to absorb the hundreds and hundreds of impacts per mile.
So if the muscles aren't firing optimally, the joints take the hit. But running is a full-body movement, right? It involves the legs, arms, and core. So how can the sources argue it bypasses crucial strength areas?
That's a really critical insight the sources emphasized. Running is primarily a forward linear motion. It relies on momentum and the repeated firing of, say, the hip flexors and calves, but it allows the deep stabilizing muscles, your intrinsic core, your glute medius, your spinal stabilizers. It lets them just coast. You can maintain a decent running pace even if those muscles are really quite weak.
So if I'm hearing this right, you're essentially building endurance on a weak foundation.
Precisely. That shaky foundation is the root cause of so much chronic low back pain, which plagues many regular joggers. They have strong hearts, but they lack the trunk stability necessary to handle all that repetitive impact. Running doesn't train the anti-rotational core strength needed to prevent the spine from twisting, just slightly with every single step. And over time, that repetitive microtrauma, it adds up to significant pain.
Hmm. And beyond muscle loss, the sources also point to natural shifts in balance and joint forgiveness. How do those factors combine to make running a risky proposition?
Well, we experience a natural decline in balance. Specifically, in our reaction time and hormonal shifts make our ligaments and tendons less resilient. They heal more slowly. So when you combine that rapid muscle loss with reduced agility and high impact stress, you have the perfect recipe for a preventable injury. The key shift has to be from training purely for cardio endurance to training for functional resilience. We have to prioritize movements that strengthen the glutes, stabilize the core, and improve the nervous system's ability to react.
None of which running does particularly well.
Not particularly, no.
So the solution isn't to stop moving entirely, but to introduce specific, safe, and proven movements that build the armor we need. Let's dive into the 5 pillars the sources identify as the cornerstone of this new, smarter approach to fitness. We begin with the foundation, the core. And exercise 1 is the high to low plank. The material suggests that after 50, core training isn't about having visible abs. It's about spinal protection and, well, functional life.
It truly is your insurance policy. Every single movement, every lift, every turn originates from or passes through a stable core. And as we discussed, core muscles are often the first to suffer from that accelerated muscle loss, which leads directly to poor posture, chronic low back pain, and a dramatically increased risk of falling.
Right, because the trunk can't stabilize itself during a slip or a trip.
Exactly, a perturbation.
Yeah.
These benefits, they become non-negotiable at this stage.
So what specifically about the dynamic high-low plank makes it superior to the static plank we often see people doing?
The shift from just static holding to dynamic movement introduces a whole new level of challenge that targets two crucial areas. First, it activates deep stabilizers, things like the serratus anterior and the transversus abdominis, which hold the shoulder girdle and spine rigid. Second, and this is what's really fascinating, it dramatically improves neuromuscular coordination.
Okay, tell us more about that technical term, neuromuscular coordination.
Think of it as training the communication highway between your brain and your muscles to become smarter and quicker. The high to low plank forces your brain to constantly coordinate multiple limbs, hands, forearms, shoulders, hips, to stabilize against gravity and rotation. This rapid, coordinated firing of muscles is what prevents falls in real life. When you stumble on an uneven curb, your body doesn't have time to consciously think, okay, fire the glute, now contract the core.
Right, it needs to be automatic, a reflex.
It needs that instantaneous reflexive response, and the high to low plank trains that reflex better than almost any other core exercise.
So it's building smart reactive strength, not just brute strength.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the sources emphasizing the real-life application here, mimicking the necessary strength to recover from a trip or, and this is crucial, the effort of getting up off the floor after a fall.
That's such a key functional insight. Look, if you spend years avoiding the floor, you literally lose the strength and coordination to return to your feet independently. The high to low plank directly mimics the pushing and the bracing needed to transition from the ground back to standing. It's strength training for self-rescue.
Let's make sure the listener understands the form perfectly. What are the common pitfalls we need to avoid in the high to low plank?
Okay, so you start in the high plank position, hands directly under the shoulders, body forming a straight line, either on your knees or your toes. The movement begins when you lower one forearm to the ground, then the second forearm landing in a forearm plank. Then you reverse it. You press up with the first hand, then the second. That whole process is 1 rep.
And the form cues that make this truly effective, what should people be thinking about?
Control is absolutely paramount. The number one mistake is the hip sway or the torso twist. If your hips are twisting side to side as you transition, you are failing to engage the core's anti-rotational muscles. So, key cues are: pull your belly button toward your spine as hard as you can, squeeze your glutes, and imagine there is a glass of water resting on your lower back that you cannot spill. You have to move deliberately. Speed completely compromises the neural benefit.
And what if the dynamic movement is just too much right now, maybe due to shoulder weakness or something like that?
That's an excellent question. The sources really emphasize starting where you are. A great modification is just the static forearm plank. Hold for 10 to 15 seconds, rest, and repeat. Or you can dramatically reduce the load by performing the entire high to low plank sequence against a sturdy wall or a kitchen countertop. You still get the benefit of training the movement pattern and the core engagement, but with minimal strain on the joints. We'd recommend starting with 2 to 3 sets of 5 to 6 controlled reps, resting briefly between sets, and aiming for this 2-3 times per week.
We've established the core foundation. If the core is the stability, where does that power transfer next? Directly to the largest, most metabolically active muscle group, the glutes and the posterior chain. Here's where it gets really interesting. Why the kettlebell deadlift is key to decades of physical independence.
The deadlift it's just the single most functional movement you can perform. It's not just about moving weight. It is about reinforcing the movement pattern you need to navigate life. Every time you bend to lift a child or haul a bag of pet food or simply stand up fully from a deep chair, you are performing a deadlift. If you lose the ability to deadlift properly, you lose independence, period.
Wait, okay, but deadlift and joint-friendly seem a little contradictory, especially for someone who might carry old back injuries. How do the sources address that specific concern about spine load?
That's a crucial point, and it hinges entirely on form. A badly executed deadlift is dangerous, absolutely. But a properly executed kettlebell deadlift, focusing on the hip hinge, is profoundly therapeutic and joint protective. It teaches you to absorb load using the large, powerful muscles of the posterior chain, the glutes, hamstrings, and erector spina, rather than rounding and stressing the small vertebrae and discs of the lower back. Running involves repeated vertical compression. The deadlift, when done correctly, teaches spinal rigidity and load distribution.
So we're targeting the posterior chain, the entire backside of the body. Why is that specific muscle group so critical for longevity?
Well, the glutes are your engine. Stronger glutes mean more stable hips, which means reduced knee pain as they prevent that inward collapse of the knee. They also mean better posture that combats the rounded shoulder syndrome caused by sitting. Furthermore, the glutes are huge, meaning challenging them through resistance training, like the deadlift acts as a powerful fuel source for your metabolism, actively fighting the effects of sarcopenia we discussed earlier. It is the ultimate antidote to the sitting lifestyle.
Right. And the sources reference a specific study highlighting the deadlift's benefits beyond just muscle strength.
Yes, the 2019 research on resistance training in adults over 50, it found that this kind of training, with the deadlift as a primary movement, provided systemic benefits. They observed significant improvements in insulin sensitivity, so better blood sugar control and a reduced risk of type 2 diabetes. It also boosted bone density in the hips and spine, which is vital for both men and women as they age.
And the connection to cognitive function was fascinating, wasn't it?
Absolutely. The need for intense focus and coordination during a deadlift, maintaining rigidity, controlling the hinge, driving through the heels, it engages cognitive processes that other exercises simply don't. Lifting smart makes your brain sharper, improving connection and focus. This dual benefit, metabolic and cognitive, is why the sources deem it a foundational exercise for longevity.
Let's tackle the key to safety, the hip hinge. If a listener hasn't mastered this, how do they differentiate it from a dangerous squat or a back bend?
This is the difference between injury and independence. A squat involves the knees bending first. A back bend involves rounding the lumbar spine. The hip hinge is about pushing your hips back dramatically, almost as if you were trying to touch the wall behind you with your tailbone. Imagine holding a yardstick along your back. It should touch your head, your upper back, and your tailbone simultaneously. And you must maintain those 3 points of contact throughout the entire movement.
And how do we apply that to the kettlebell deadlift itself?
Okay, start with the kettlebell placed between your feet, which should be about hip width apart. Execute that hip hinge, pushing the hips back and maintaining that flat back, reaching down with a slight bend in the knees until you can grasp the kettlebell handle with both hands. Your chest should be open, not rounded inward. To lift, drive through your heels, squeeze your glutes hard, and stand up tall, ending in a straight line. Do not lean back at the top. To lower, push those hips back slowly first, controlling the descent.
And what's the safety progression here for a beginner?
If the movement is new, forget the weight entirely. Just practice the hip hinge in front of a mirror until it feels automatic. Maybe hold a dowel or a broomstick on your back to ensure that spinal contact. When you do add weight, start extremely light. 10 to 15 pounds is a great starting point. We prioritize perfect form over moving heavy weight. Aim for 2 to 3 sets of 8 to 10 reps. The focus is tension, not speed.
We've built the core and the engine, which are the glutes. Now we move to the upper body with exercise 3, the push-up, using wall or knee variations. Why is pushing strength something often overlooked by aging athletes? Such a crucial predictor of long-term health.
Upper body resilience is life insurance. The sources highlight that robust upper body strength is a direct predictor of longevity, independence, and perhaps surprisingly, cardiovascular health. I mean, think about the functional application. Catching yourself if you slip, pushing yourself up out of a chair or off the floor, or carrying heavy objects without strain. These muscles, chest, shoulders, triceps, and core, are essential safety features.
In connecting this back to the running argument, running just doesn't provide significant pushing resistance.
No, it doesn't. Running is a locomotion pattern, but it doesn't train the anti-gravity bracing and deceleration that the push-up provides. A push-up is a plank in motion. It demands total body tension to stabilize the spine while the arms do the work. You're training a crucial skill. Running ignores the ability to decelerate and brace against impact.
I recall the source material detailing the link between push-ups and bone density, which is critical, especially for women after menopause.
It is. Bone density naturally declines with age, and a major goal of resistance training is to counteract this. Push-ups enhance bone density by putting compressive load through the radius and ulna, the arm bones, and through the shoulders and chest. This stimulus tells the body to strengthen those areas. It's a vital preventative measure against fragility fractures.
Let's talk about that impressive longevity data. The Harvard study referenced regarding heart health was truly compelling.
What's fascinating here is just the sheer predictive power of it. That large Harvard study found that men who could perform more than 10 modified push-ups, and that means variations like knee or wall push-ups, not necessarily full versions,
Yeah.
they had a significantly lower risk of experiencing major cardiovascular events compared to those who could do fewer than 10.
Wow. That is a direct, measurable link between muscular capability and cardiac health, regardless of other factors like age or BMI.
It is. It frames the push-up as far more than a vanity exercise. It's a measurable indicator of total body functional capacity and robust vascular health. If you can move your body weight effectively through space against gravity, it signals a strong heart, healthy muscle mass, and excellent motor control.
Okay, so let's detail the variations so the listener can start safely and build up that crucial capability.
We always start with the most accessible variation, the wall push-up. Stand roughly 2 feet away from a sturdy wall, hands slightly wider than shoulder height. Keep your body rigid, a straight line from head to heels, and slowly bend your elbows, bringing your chest toward the wall. Then push back forcefully. This builds the muscle memory and tolerance for the movement without strain. Aim for 8 to 10 controlled reps.
And then progressing to the floor.
The intermediate step is the knee push-up. On the floor, hands wider than shoulders. Crucially, you have to ensure there's a straight line from your knees to your head. Do not allow your hips to sag or stick up in the air. This defeats the whole core stabilization benefit. Lower your chest slowly, aiming for a 90-degree bend in the elbows, and press back up. We'd recommend 2 to 3 sets of 6 to 10 reps for either variation.
What if the listener experiences wrist discomfort? That's a really common issue with push-ups.
It is, and it's often due to the hyperextension of the wrist underload. 2 simple fixes. First, you can curl your fingers up slightly, gripping the floor aggressively to reduce the angle. Second, use push-up handles or even place light dumbbells on the floor and grip those. This keeps the wrists straight and neutral, transferring the load safely to the arms and shoulders. And remember, if you feel sharp or pinching pain anywhere, just reduce the range of motion or return to the wall variation. We are building strength, not breaking down joints.
We've addressed pushing strength. Now we move to exercise 4, which is all about agility, awareness, and balance. The single-leg Romanian deadlift, or RDL. We're not talking about static balance here, like standing on one foot. We're training the dynamic ability to recover from unexpected movement.
Exactly. This is where fitness becomes truly preventative. The single-leg RDL is an incredibly powerful, full-body exercise that simultaneously targets hip strength, ankle stability, core control, and most importantly, proprioception.
Proprioception, that sense of your body's position in space. The sources highlighted its natural decline after 50. Why does that decline lead to such a heightened fall risk?
Well, proprioception is your body's unconscious sensory feedback loop. It's what tells you, without you even looking, whether your foot is flat or whether your knee is bent or whether you're about to shift too far to the left. After 50, this feedback loop, it just slows down. If you step off a curb slightly wrong, a younger person's nervous system registers the instability and corrects it instantly. When proprioception is dulled, the reaction time increases, and that slight trip becomes a fall.
That makes the need for single-leg training really urgent. So why are these unilateral movements like the RDL so much more effective than just standing on 2 feet?
Research consistently shows that unilateral movements retrain the nervous system and improve joint stability faster than static balance drills because they actively introduce controlled instability. You are forcing the body, specifically the stabilizing muscles around the hip and ankle, to work overtime to prevent collapse. It's the difference between walking on a predictable wide sidewalk versus navigating an unpredictable narrow forest trail. We need to train for the trail.
And this movement strengthens the brain as well, doesn't it? I found that fascinating.
It does. Unilateral exercises demand intense focus, which increases cross-body brain activation. You are demanding that one side of your brain communicate effectively with the opposite side of your body under load. The better you become at controlling this complex multi-joint movement, the sharper your brain becomes at quick, coordinated problem solving. It's simultaneous strength and brain training.
And on top of that, the RDL combats the deep societal issue of weak glutes and poor posture caused by all the sitting we do.
Absolutely. The RDL focuses on that hip hinge, aggressively stretching the hamstrings and forcing the glutes to fire eccentrically on the way down and then powerfully concentrically on the way up. It's superb at reversing the tight hip flexors and weak glutes that contribute to the slight shuffle or gait problems and chronic low back pain often seen in older adults. It restores hip capacity.
Let's detail the form. It requires intense concentration. How do we do it right?
Okay, you start by standing tall, shifting your weight onto one leg, let's say the left. Keep that standing knee slightly soft, never locked out. The movement is a slow, controlled hip hinge. You fold forward at the hip, extending the opposite leg, the right leg, straight back. The most important cue is to keep your back flat and maintain a straight, rigid line between your torso and the extending leg, operating like a teeter-totter or a lever. Do not let your back round or your hips twist open.
And the return. What are we focusing on there?
You lower only as far as you can maintain that flat back and hip stability. The ascent is slow and purposeful. You powerfully squeeze the glute of your standing leg to pull yourself back upright. The focus is all on balance and control. This should feel challenging, not easy.
For safety and progression, what should the listener do if they feel really unstable at first?
Start with stability. Place one hand lightly on a chair or a wall for initial support. Just practice the hinge and extension until the movement pattern is ingrained. Once you feel stable without support, you can progress by holding a light object, a shoe, a remote control in the hand opposite the standing leg. This small weight adds complexity. And finally, progress to holding a light dumbbell or kettlebell, maybe 5 to 10 pounds to start. We'd recommend 2 to 3 sets of 5 to 8 very slow, focused reps per side. Consistency and training balance is non-negotiable for injury prevention.
Now we arrive at the most surprising element of this deep dive exercise 5, grip strength training. Frankly, reading that data point about grip strength and mortality was shocking. Why is this small action given such massive importance in the research?
What's fascinating here is just the sheer predictive power of the grip. Grip strength is scientifically one of the strongest, most accessible biomarkers of overall muscular health, independence, and even lifespan. It's hard to imagine, but your ability to squeeze reflects the integrity of your entire body system.
Can you walk us through the methodology of that Lancet study again? Why did researchers find that low grip strength was more strongly associated with death than high blood pressure or even obesity?
Yeah, that 2018 large-scale study was a significant wake-up call. Researchers tracked nearly 140,000 individuals across 17 countries and found a linear relationship. For every 11-pound decrease in grip strength, the risk of death from any cause increased by 16%. The reason it's such a powerful predictor is that it reflects systemic health. Low grip strength doesn't cause heart disease, but it signals that there are deeper problems, likely related to generalized muscle frailty, chronic systemic inflammation, and poor nervous system signaling.
So it's a symptom of a broader underlying decay that needs to be addressed through resistance training.
Exactly. A strong grip requires robust motor unit recruitment, the brain sending powerful signals to the muscles, and a healthy vascular system to supply those muscles. When those systems decline, you see the weakness first in the extremities. A strong grip signals a robust, well-maintained nervous and circulatory system.
Let's talk about the independence applications.
Yeah.
How does this translate to everyday life for the listener?
Total independence relies on hand function. A strong grip means you can open stubborn jars without frustration, securely hold a heavy grocery bag without dropping it, manage tools safely, and maintain control of your dog's leash. And more critically, if you trip or fall, your hands are the first things you throw out to catch yourself. A weak grip can lead to an ineffective brace, resulting in a much worse injury.
And are there internal benefits beyond that functional strength?
Yes. Consistent grip training supports healthy blood pressure regulation because the action of squeezing and relaxing encourages better vascular flow in the forearms. It's a localized resistance exercise that has a systemic benefit. Furthermore, the rhythmic contraction and relaxation stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system, which aids in relaxation and effective recovery from stress. It's quiet strength that stabilizes both body and mind.
And the beauty of this exercise is its simplicity and accessibility.
It requires zero gym equipment or any complex setup. All you need is a small rubber squeeze ball, a firm stress ball, or even a tightly rolled up hand towel. This can be done while you're sitting, watching TV, or waiting for the kettle to boil. Consistency is the true magic here.
So how do we execute this effectively for maximum benefit?
Okay, hold the ball in your hand, making sure your fingers are wrapped around it. Squeeze firmly. You should feel significant effort but never pain, and hold that maximum contraction for about 5 to 7 seconds. Then, slowly release the pressure. It's critical to breathe steadily throughout the squeeze and release. Do not hold your breath. And repeat this 10 times per hand.
And for consistency, how often should the listener incorporate this?
We'd recommend aiming for 2 to 3 sets per hand, performed once or twice every single day. It's a habit that should be built into your routine, perhaps while reading the paper or driving when you're safely at a stop. To progress, you can increase the hold time to 10 seconds or introduce an adjustable resistance grip trainer. The caution remains. Listen to your hands. If you experience tingling, numbness, or sharp joint pain, especially if you have arthritis or diagnosed carpal tunnel, stop and consult a specialist. But this simple habit can add decades of functional capacity.
So what does this all mean? We've completed our deep dive into the 5 functional, evidence-backed movements designed to replace the joint stress and muscular neglect that can accompany high-impact, generalized cardio like running for adults over 50.
Yeah, we've built a comprehensive, actionable plan. We started with the high to low plank for core stability and critical fall prevention reflexes. We empowered the body's engine with the kettlebell deadlift, boosting metabolism, hips, and cognition. We added the push-up for upper body resilience and heart health longevity. We sharpened the nervous system with the single leg RDL, enhancing proprioception and dynamic balance. And finally, we addressed the silent predictor of health and independence with grip strength training.
The overarching goal of these 5 movements is to stop training for arbitrary endurance and start targeting usable, lasting muscle, trusted balance, and the strength that ensures you retain your freedom of movement.
Exactly. This program is specifically tailored for generally healthy, mobile adults over 50 who are actively fighting accelerated muscle loss, feeling their balance start to decline, or who spend long hours sitting. These movements are designed to build, not break, the body.
If the listener is eager to start, what's the simplest schedule recommendation? How do they begin?
Begin gently. You absolutely do not need to attempt all 5 exercises today. Start with 2 to 3 focused sessions per week, aiming for just 15 to 25 minutes each. In any one session, choose just 2 or 3 of the exercises and focus on perfect form. For example, Monday could be planks and deadlifts. Wednesday could be push-ups and RDLs. Consistency and targeted movement will always surpass sporadic, intense, high-impact effort.
And finally, the essential caveats on safety. We need to reinforce the message that sharp pain is a hard stop.
Absolutely. If you have any recent or planned joint replacements, uncontrolled blood pressure or vertigo, or are managing severe arthritis or nerve pain, you must seek guidance from a doctor or physical therapist before initiating these exercises. We are looking for muscular effort and a feeling of warmth, but sharp pinching or shooting pain means you must immediately stop, modify the movement, or reduce the load. Exercise over 50 is about safe, progressive strength gain. Your strength potential is still here. It hasn't vanished. It's simply been neglected by workouts that didn't respect the needs of the mature body. The choice you make today to replace passive, high impact movement with active, targeted strength building can radically change your vitality and independence 6 months, a year, and a decade from now. Fitness at this stage isn't a luxury, it's the cornerstone of freedom. We encourage you to choose just one of these 5 powerful movements, focus on that perfect form, and start building your lifelong resilience today. You own your strength.